Hello, hello. Welcome back to Archived Memories.
It's been so long, even I can't remember.
It's interesting that you talk about how long it's been, because as far as in between recordings go, this is actually me now looking at the recordings folder. Is actually one of the closer episodes that we've recorded to the last.
Oh, yeah? Well, maybe I just have Alzheimer's.
Possibly, because it has not even been 2 months, and usually we're on like the 3 to 4 month rotation. So.
Well, it sounds like I should just be replaced with a clone by now.
Probably, but unfortunately, we're past all the Jinteki cards now, so no ideas to be gleaned from there.
Oh, well, it's hopeless.
Well, um, are there any preliminary Netrunner discussions to have? I know in our Discord we've been talking about playing Netrunner. Are we
I know
going to play?
what a strange concept.
Right.
I would like to, but it hasn't happened yet, so there's not much to report on, I'm afraid.
I think we should play Netrunner. I'm gonna drop a hot take on you right here on the podcast and say I think that we should play Netrunner.
Oh, well, we'll do that and then get back to our one or two loyal listeners out there.
Hey,
What is it like to play Netrunner in 2023?
I'm pretty sure that there's like literally a shut up and sit down video that is like that exact title.
Oh boy.
Except
That
2022.
you made me feel a lot worse about my life. Appreciate that.
Well, that's what I'm here for. Anyway, do we want to talk about Netrunner cards now, since that's what the concept of this podcast is?
I guess we'd better either that or start taking our clothes off.
I don't know if I want to do that again.
Fair enough. All right. Shall I start us off then?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, the first non-ID in the NBN cards in the core set, we have Astro-script Pilot Program. It is an agenda with the initiative subtype. It it has a score cost of 3 and is worth 2 points. So, we're in that golden number range. Its text reads, place 1 agenda counter on Astroscript Pilot Program when you score it. It has a paid ability for the hosted agenda counter. Place 1 advancement token on a card that can be advanced. Limit 1 per deck, though that last part was not always there.
It's not there for our watchers / listeners at home.
Yeah. So, all right. Scratching that last sentence out. Aaron. So 3-2 agendas were very good, yes?
Quite strong, yes.
Why was this so much better than all of the others?
Well, the easy answer, or I guess really the glaring answer, is built-in fast advance. You can do what is called the Astro-train, as many people probably fondly remember it as, in
Yes,
which as soon as you score one of these guys, you can then out of hand with the runner not being able to say too much else about it, and in the core set pretty much fuck all about it. You can score out the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then, and I think we'll talk about it here very shortly, you can then score out another agenda called Breaking News from your hand and win the game.
That sounds like scoring a lot of things from your hand.
It does, and as we've probably talked about in earlier episodes, at least a little bit, and that being able to score things without them actually having to be on the table for a turn plus is really, really, really strong.
Yes. We went into this somewhat in our discussion around biotic labor back in the HB cards.
Yes.
Heck, this podcast named after the card Archived Memories, which was for much of its time primarily used to get a biotic labor back into hand, just so that you can continue to fast advance.
Yes. See, the thing is that the game is called Netrunner, right?
Yeah.
But if a card never hits the table or is on the table, for a runner's turn, what can you not do?
Um, make a run on it with a guaranteed access.
You cannot net run against
Yeah.
it. You
Well,
cannot be the Android netrunner.
you can. Let's be real. You can still run HQ. You can run R&D, but those are no guarantees.
Sure.
Agendas that are on, and this is really something that is maybe not as easy to understand for those who haven't played as much, but agendas that are in a remote server on the runner's turn are much more vulnerable than ones in central servers.
Right. And your opportunities to be able to, run an agenda and this specific agenda, are a lot more slim, uh, when they don't hit the table because this may not even be an HQ. The turn prior to it being scored. If a counter is already active, or if the corporation already has a biotic labor in their hand. This may potentially be sitting on top of R&D, or to where they draw into it the next turn. The problem, right, is that when you're not able to actually run on an agenda, that's placed in a remote server, is you just kind of have to poke elsewhere, and hope that you're able to grab it before it lands in their hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But really, just to kind of laser focus on why this is, kind of too strong, or what the problem with this card is, right? Is that it's just that being able to freely, for no click or monetary cost, just place an advancement token on a card that can be advanced is too strong.
Yes. If you compare kind of the monetary cost to fast advance another Astro-script pilot program, when you have one scored, costs you 3 clicks and 2 credits. So it takes a whole turn, but 2 credits. It's not very much. That's very cheap.
It's
Of
extremely
course, you
cheap.
can afford that. Compare that to scoring another 3-2, say a accelerated beta test in HB with a biotic labor is 7. 6 if you're considering the HB core identity, which is refunding one of your credits when you install that agenda.
Right. Still your whole turn, but significantly more credits. Even if you do get the ETF discount, which, I mean, chances are you're going to get that. If you're at any point prior to creation and control.
Yes.
Then that's still significantly more credits. The 6 versus 2.
Right, and add to that the fact that if you use AstroScript to score another one, which is the normal order of things, you now have another fast advance tool. You can just do it again. You've spent 2 credits and you're in a much better position. It's cheaper, it's faster. Well, it's not faster, but it kind of is. And it puts you in a better position to score the next round.
Yeah. And so, with it being so low cost, and another reason, kind of that I pointed out too, is that its ability to do this. It's a card that combos off of itself. You don't need this and literally anything else for it to work. You can literally just run this, and it's great. Now,
Yes.
it also works great, way too good with other tools that make it even better, such as being able to splash biotic labor. Not difficult at all. And San City Grid,
Which you don't even have to splash. It's in your faction.
They just already have access to San City Grid, which we'll talk about later. And so the biggest problem with Astro-script is that not only is it arguably too good just even by itself without any other cards helping it, it's really, really good, and way, way too good when you add those other kind of ingredients to the mix.
Yes, it turns out just stamping your corporate logo on the moon, OP.
Yeah, strongest thing in the game.
All right, so I want to take this in kind of a different direction, discussion wise. We have in the past discussed what would it take to make this card good. What would it make to make Astroscript pilot program? What would it take to make it not stupid?
Well, we can go kind of the way that they did it, and I can't remember actually. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if this was a Core 2 change,
I
or
believe it was.
yeah, because I don't know if it was a Core 2 errata or if it was like a Nisei era errata. The limit 1 per deck
I believe it was a Core 2 change.
could be. I'm thinking though, now that I'm thinking about it, was Astroscript not just replaced entirely in Core 2 with Beal, or am I crazy?
Maybe it was. It might have just been errata.
I guess I can just look. But anyway, point is, I think the limit 1 per deck is a reasonable sort of answer to that. But even, because limit 1 per deck then lets you, kind of cheat out, so to speak, another 3/2 after you score this one. But it's not an infinite chain, or train rather. The train just kind of ends there. Which is not terrible.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable approach. Do you think at 3/2 it's still reasonable?
Hard to say, because I almost say that even if you just didn't limit it and it was like a 4/2, I feel like even then, I feel like at that point it goes like from too strong to maybe not strong enough. But though I don't know, with things like Biotic Labor and Sansan City Grid in the mix, it would certainly help hinder it. But I mean, it probably wouldn't actually hinder it all that much. If you have a Sansan online, then it really doesn't matter.
Sure, it becomes just a barrier to entry cost.
Right. Same with like Biotic Labor and such.
Right.
I do want to say that I was correct in that, yes, Core 2 did just remove this from the game and replaced it with Project Beal.
That's a fair change, too. How do you make this card balanced? You get rid of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it turns out that Fantasy Flight's answer to your question was the way you make this balanced is just remove it from the game.
Yeah, well, I can't say I blame them.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I think limit 1 per deck is fine. And I think for making it a 4/2 is also pretty fine too, because at that point, I mean, it's not useless. It just kind of then forces you, because here was the one of the bigger problems with Astroscript, kind of that I mentioned, was that it's built-in fast advanced chain ability, is that you just always had that as like a pocket win condition, even if you made a deck that did something completely different.
Sure.
And at least if you change it to a 4/2, then at that point, it's not just its own pocket win condition, where you can just with near impunity just chain it out. You still have to get them on the table.
Yeah.
If you're going to go with the true Astro-train, then you actually have to build the deck in the sense with, you have to spend the influence on Biotic Labors or slot Sansans and then kind of run them and get them on the field.
Right. You actually require combo pieces rather than just the agenda is your tool in of itself, whereas most of the time the agenda itself is a liability.
Yes. So okay. I'm going to say that's my answer, is make it a 4/2. I think that's a fair way to kind of balance it.
Seems reasonable to me. So, this really was a meta-defining card. For as long as this card was in circulation, it was in every NBN deck.
Yeah, the way this card affected the meta was that you just always ran it no matter what.
Kind of the worst kind of meta card.
Yeah, I think we've touched on it with some other meta-defining cards. Sort of things like drawing a blank here now. I want to say that I probably Parasite, right? Like those sort of cards where it's just you just always run them. There's just no reason not to.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But what I will say, how it affected the meta to come, is that goddamn did Fantasy Flight try to print silver bullet after silver bullet after silver bullet for this fucking card.
Oh, for sure. And things like what was the first one that came out? The Source. Later, things like Clot that are intended to be roadblocks in the way of fast advance, to varying levels of success.
Yep.
If it took a lot of trial and error for them to find ways, and Silver bullets never feel amazing to slot into decks.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, as much as I love Netrunner, and I'm willing to admit that it got kind of caught in an unfortunate loop of printing two cards that are too strong and then printing silver bullets for those cards and then just kind of rinse and repeat. Um, uh, I forgot. I guess I forgot where I was going with that statement. That despite that, I do still, think that the game was great, and I don't think that it really suffered that much for it. But uh, maybe starting with this card and a few others, it definitely kind of got caught in that loop from the get go.
Sure, it was most impactful when you went to tournaments or later when you were playing online on Jinteki and just could not stop running into the same deck.
Yeah, this was a card that you had to pack something to play against, or just you had to have a strategy against it. Like basically, this was this was one of the core cards that when you sat down, if the person was playing a yellow deck, and at higher levels, especially in the early days, chances are they were.
Guilty.
Yeah, you just had to know, like, all right, I gotta figure out how to stop the Astro-train.
Yeah. All right. Well, what more is there to say about this stupid card?
Yeah, it's just way too fucking strong, and I think that's about all that can be said.
What do you think of its flavor here? No flavor text, of course, but
Its flavor, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't get it, and I never really got it. It's a logo on the moon. What is that? What's an AstroScript?
well,
AstroScript pilot? What does that mean?
It means if you put your logo on the moon, it becomes easier to put your logo on the moon again.
Yeah, but what does AstroScript mean? What is that?
It sounds sci-fi. That's
like, what does that have to do with the logo on the moon? Like, why is it not Lunar Script pilot program? Like, I don't. I mean, the art is pretty good, though, I will say, but
the art's not bad. But as far as marriage of flavor and function, who knows?
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that I think this kind of became a theme with NBN stuff in general. Is that it did feel like it got sort of tough for them to merge function and flavor with a lot of NBN cards.
True. Though with perhaps the next card we review, that might not be the case.
No, I think it's maybe what I mean to say is that it's like feast or famine with NBN. Like
Okay,
the function and flavor is either like perfect, like phenomenal, or it's just like, what is this?
Yeah, that's fair. Much like corporate media itself.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Anyway, what do we want to rate this thing?
This gets a 0.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna give it a fucking 0 too. We're gonna, we're gonna fucking throw you guys for a loop. Oh, the card's too strong, so that means, it has to get placed in like an honor or respectful. No, fuck that. This card sucks because it's too good and it never should have been made.
Yep, exactly. It's stupid. It made the game worse. Get rid of it.
Yep, hate it. In the trash it goes. Meat space garbage. For those that keep up to date with the running tier list. By the way, I don't know if anybody reads the description or is even aware. For our videos. But I am keeping track of all of the ratings of our cards on a running tier list that is updated per episode. So if you ever do want to just get an idea of where we're placing all these things, you can check that out. I do put the link in the description of every episode.
Yep. And 0 to 1, meat space garbage.
Yep, that's the tier this piece of doo-doo goes in. Get it out of my sight.
All right, what do we got next? Hopefully something good.
Something that I think is quite a bit better. Though a little bit of an accomplice, partner in crime to the prior card, I will say, as I guess I kind of already mentioned. But what we have next is breaking news. It is an NBN agenda. It has a 2 advancement cost and is worth 1 point when you score or steal it. It is an agenda, and it reads, when you score breaking news, give the runner 2 tags. When the turn on which you scored breaking news ends, the runner loses 2 tags. Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
Why was this card just AstroScript pilot programs lackey?
I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think it was just AstroScript pilot programs lackey. I think it had legs of its own well beyond that. But it was certainly AstroScript pilot programs lackey too. So it's real simple. In Netrunner, you need 7 points to win the game. 3 copies of AstroScript gets you to 6. This gets you to 7. You can fast advance this with absolutely no additional tools. It's only 2 cost. So this just gets you across the finish line.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, and I suppose it is unfair of me to say, that it's just AstroScript's lackey, because you're right. This card definitely, kind of like you said, had its own legs. Certainly had some fun and interesting interactions, just in and of itself. With other cards, and but we'll say that if this card was an actor, it was certainly typecast as AstroScript pilot program's lackey.
Certainly. More than once playing with breaking news. I would play it in hybrid fast advance because you have AstroScript. Fast advance is just part of your toolbox. Scorched Earth decks with NBN. And one of my favorite things to do would be to, especially after NEPD contract came out, is you install this in a remote that you're pretty sure that they can't get into, and you advance it once or twice. And it looks like, oh, is this an NAPD? Is this a global food initiative or something? And then on your next turn, you can just advance it once or 0 times, score it, and suddenly the runner has 2 tags. This opens them up for Scorched Earth. This opened them up for Boom later on.
Yep.
And it just felt so good and cheeky.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said about kind of the strength that a install double advanced breaking news kind of has and kind of holds. Because being able to one, score it, right, because it's worth a point. So I mean,
Sure.
this is a good example of an agenda where, kind of as you mentioned, a lot of them tended to be a hindrance. And kind of later as the game went on, we saw that less and less, where there were a lot of agendas that had benefits to running them. Almost to an unfortunate point where
sure,
it became
things like corporate sales team.
Yeah, but it got to a point where it's like, okay, well, why would I not just run this?
Yeah.
But breaking news, was kind of early to that party, and that there's a lot of value that you could get out of running breaking news, outside of just the point that it gets you. It enables boom plays. It enables the trashing of resources. Which is always kind of an underrated thing with floating tags or just getting tagged. One that I found myself kind of forgetting about, because sometimes you get so tunnel visioned on, getting blown up that you forget that you're Katie Jones with 12 credits on it, is just a tag away from going kaput.
Yes. The versatility of breaking news and its ability to reach across the table and slap the runner was always a joy.
Yeah, and being able to install advance it, to kind of enable that really helped in, sort of masking that. I mean, it was something that, more savvy players would really have to honor.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And something that you could definitely get a reputation for that you could use later on. I had on occasion splashed some sort of trap, a June bug or something, into Jinteki, just so I could install double advance it against people who knew I liked to play Scorched Earth out of it and bait them into running on it. Its ability is strong enough that it forced action from the runner if they understood that this was in play.
Yeah, so you had to you had to keep in mind that the double advanced breaking news on the table is a possibility, and so you had to do something about it. Now, whether that something was just be in a position where you accept that you're going to take those 2 tags, and have resources you don't care about, or don't have resources that you do care about, and be say packing Plascreed, or I've had worse or what have you, to where you can survive like a double scorched. or a boom or what have you. It was something that you needed to think about, and it was something that required um, you to play around in some form or fashion.
Yes.
So guess we're not to ratings yet, but what I will say is that I do like breaking news.
As do I. It it has lots of play and it's interactive. It is the opposite of AstroScript in that regard, is that it encourages interaction with the runner.
Yeah, it's a agenda that you can score right from hand, but it's not guilty of the same sins of AstroScript um, in that scoring it out of hand for the 1 point is really not getting a lot of value out of it, except for in the Astro-train context, which
Sure.
really isn't its fault.
Yeah, if you're just scoring it out of hand, its ability is fairly useless unless you're resing a cheeky, zealous judge.
That is true. Did you even use a zealous judge? Or I go, because they have to have tags in order for you to res them. That's right.
Correct. Yes.
Good old funky drop the microphone Elvis hair killer guy, man.
Love that card.
Love him. I wouldn't actually do anything to this card. It's actually interesting because I was looking that in Core 2 they did actually remove breaking news as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a little unfair. I'm going to say totally deserved on the AstroScript point, but breaking news, like, come on, we really can't leave this guy in there?
Core 2 was very heavy handed with a lot of changes, and it leaned towards the side of, all right, any effect that's just going to happen and has potential strong implications, we're going to get rid of. I think it's the same reason they got rid of noise, and I dislike both of those changes, but it was kind of their philosophy.
Yeah, I mean,
Same with
getting rid of
account
noise.
siphon.
Yeah, getting rid of noise, getting rid of account siphon, getting rid of AstroScript, all totally perfect. Good decisions, correct.
Hey, now.
But breaking news, come on, man. That's like, he got wrapped up with the wrong crowd, right? Like, he didn't really know who AstroScript was or what he was about, right?
He was a good boy.
Breaking news is a good boy, and you didn't need to take him out of the course there. I said.
I don't disagree.
All right, well, I wouldn't do anything with this card. I think we've kind of, talked about it in all the ways we can. So, what are we feeling about the flavor?
I like the flavor. Like, no flavor text on it, but the art is reasonable. We've got a high speed cyber flying car city chase going on. And I like the idea of, something's happening, and so the corpse swoops in and they get the scoop, they tag you, etc. I like it.
Yeah, I think it works out well. I think the art is quite good on this. It's been a while since I've sat and looked at it, but sitting and looking at it now, I think it's really good. I mean, I think a lot of the effects on like the blurring of the lighting and stuff give a good sense of kind of the chase that it's trying to convey, and I really like the cityscape in the background.
It gives it kind of a timeless quality that many of the early cards lacked in their art.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good one. I like the flavor. I like the art. I think it's good. I think it's really good.
Agreed. All right. What do you rate it then?
I'm gonna go with a 4 on this one.
I am with you. I am also going to give it a 4. I think this is a very good card. I think it's fun. I think it's interactive. I think it fills interesting design space that fits NBN well.
Yeah. It's not like a, blow my mind, knock my socks off kind of card, it's not an accelerated beta test, it's not a snare, it's not like an instant classic. But it's a really good card with a lot of really fun stuff going for it.
That you can also play in multiple ways.
Yep. So, gotta give breaking news the props here. AstroScript, fuck you. Breaking news, you're all right.
It's okay.
All right, hit me with the next one here, Isaac.
All right, next up, we have Anonymous Tip. It is an NBN operation, so we're out of the agendas already. It costs 0 credits to play, and it reads, draw 3 cards, and it is 1 influence. Okay, Aaron. Diesel is an amazing card for the runner. If it was not to influence a pop, many other factions would have run it. Why is Anonymous Tip so bad? They do the same thing.
Yeah, so I think this is a classic example of how a lot of the asymmetry of Netrunner and its design is so much deeper than just the board state and kind of what your actions and abilities are, and and necessary, and also kind of what your objectives are too. It runs even deeper than that, in that things that are good for the runner and good for the corp are not always good for the opposite, and vice versa, right? So drawing 3 cards as a corp is, and spending a click to do so at least, is not good. It's not worth a deck slot because you automatically draw a card at the start of your turn every turn without having to spend a click. And it's mandatory, by the way. It is the mandatory draw.
Yes.
Which anyone who has played in a Netrunner tournament has heard probably more times than they have their own name.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But yeah, so you already get a built-in free card draw that in some situations you may not even want.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just drowning in agendas. You have drawn 1 piece of ice and you have 5 agendas in hand, and oh, here comes the corp draw. It's another agenda, and you just want to die. You want to take the cards and cut your own throat with them.
Yeah. And so drawing 3 cards is a lot of the time just not good for you as a corporation who, in a lot of circumstances, are just kind of trying to bide your time and let your board state sort of come to you and, just play with what you have as you get it.
Yes. An underrated part of this to consider is the vulnerability of archives, your discard pile. In that if you are at 5 agendas in hand and an Anonymous Tip, and you're like, I gotta find some ice, and you play Anonymous Tip and you draw 2 more agendas and, I don't know, an operation or something, you just have 7 agendas in your hand. And you're going to be dumping some of these into archives, or just throwing them in remote servers that you're not prepared for. And so you're giving away points, basically.
Yeah, and the argument could maybe be made that, you were going to draw those cards anyway, right? But then it becomes, okay, well, if that Anonymous Tip was anything else, right, then it probably would have been better.
Right. If this was ice, maybe I could start trying to score something or protect my hand until this nightmare ended.
Yep. Or, as, this card would become, or not become, but any slot that this could ever dreamed of occupying would become is, if this was a Jackson Howard, then you're saved.
Yes. Like basically all corp draw solutions, it's not Jackson Howard.
Yep. So, and that was the thing, is that I think they realized rather quickly that Anonymous Tip and that, just being able to draw as a corp is kind of bum, kind of a dud. Nobody really wants to do that.
True.
So it needs to have another ability to kind of go along with it. Unfortunately, in the case of Jackson Howard, which maybe one day we'll get to, they just made that way too strong.
Yeah. It was kind of the story of many of Netrunner's adjustments, is a little oversteered.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good segue, though, kind of into the question of, what would you do to Anonymous Tip to make it good, to make it worth running? Just to kind of make things clear as to where we stand. Drawing 3 cards as a corp is not good. It's not worth it. There's no reason to run Anonymous Tip.
I have a controversial opinion here.
I'm interested because I for some reason have an inkling that you and I are going to have the same idea.
We'll see. Make it an upgrade. You install it, and then you just trash it to draw 3 cards in a paid ability window.
Okay, that's way different. And I still think that this card would suck if that's what it did.
Probably, but it would at least be interesting.
True. I mean, it would be a little more interesting if it was kind of controllable in that regard. It was maybe something that you could bluff a little bit. It would have to have a really high trash cost, I think, for sure.
Yeah, something like 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 for sure. And being able to draw 3 cards just on the fly in a trash like paid ability window can be pretty strong, especially in a situation where they're running on R&D, and maybe for some reason or another, you know what's in there. I don't know, maybe they played precognition, or say that you just got like indexing or something. Or in a situation where, say, they're running HQ with like a legwork, or they have a nerve agent, and then you can kind of just draw 3 cards to try to dilute the agenda or 2 that might be in your hand. Certainly more usable.
Yes, agreed.
The reason why I was kind of thinking we might be thinking the same thing is my opinion, or what I might do to it, would also be pretty controversial.
All right, let's hear it.
Especially given the discussion we had about Jackson Howard being too OP. Is if it said draw 3 cards and shuffle 1 card from archives into HQ, or no, from archives into R&D.
It's not unreasonable. It still risks over flooding your hand.
Oh yeah. Sorry. So like draw 3 cards. When your turn ends, you may.
Okay.
So something like that, to where you can kind of overdraw and do like a mini Jackson Howard effect, like a not ridiculously powerful Jackson Howard effect.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
That could work. Something a little like I forget the name of it, but that terminal operation that they added to more or less replace Howard, where you just shuffle 3 cards from archives back into R&D.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I have no idea what it is, but it's ringing a bell.
Our good friend Steve will put it up on the screen for all of you.
Thank you, Steve, for doing that. Anyway, do we want to go ahead and move on to the flavor then?
Why not? The first one of the evening with flavor text. All right, it reads, please stay connected. Priority transfer in progress. An operator will shortly verify.
I mean, yeah. See, this is where we're at with NBN, right? It's another one of the flavor things where it's like, oh, okay, I guess.
Sure. The idea of an anonymous tip, the art, and the flavor text all make sense. What it has to do with the effect of the card, I have no idea.
Yeah, why does that draw me 3 cards? Why does that accelerate research and development? Like giving headquarters like projects to work with. Like, what is the anonymous tip? Like how to code a program or something? Like what?
Yeah, it's
the anonymous tip. Wait, I've got an anonymous tip. Here's how you put your logo on the moon. Like I'm just saying, this is not one of the NBN stinkers where I'm like, I do not get it from a flavor perspective.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. All right, let's rate this dumb thing.
I will say I do think the art's kind of cool though, just kind of as a
Yeah. I mean, anytime you have like cyber console projections in a rainy city at night, you're gonna win some style points with me.
All right, thanks, Blade Runner. Anyway, I'm gonna go 0 on this. I think this card sucks really bad.
I'm gonna give it a 1 because it's better than Astro-script. It didn't try to ruin the game.
Yeah, that's fair, but I'm still not gonna give it any more than a 0 because I do think it belongs in the meat space garbage tier.
Fair enough. I just wanted it to have more points than Astro-script.
Which is fair. You know what? That's honorable. All right.
What do we have next?
All right. Well, next we have a card that we really should have brought up in our discussion about breaking news. A card that I'll be honest, I completely forgot about. But that's the reason we do the show, right? That's the reason we have these conversations.
Just a stroll down memory lane.
Yep. Anyway, up next we have Closed Accounts. It is a 1-to-play operation out of NBN. It has these subtype. There it is. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Subtype Gray Ops. And it reads, play only if the runner is tagged. The runner loses all credits in his or her credit pool. And it is 1 influence out of NBN. So, Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
Why was this pretty much the second worst thing that could ever happen to you when you're floating tags?
Because the two worst things in the world, as we all know, are in descending order, being broke and being dead.
Yep. The two worst things are being dead and having no money, and this is the two of that.
Yes. Honestly, I love this card. Although, can I note I'm disappointed we never got cards that interacted with Gray Ops or Black Ops. That's a little disappointing. Anyway, but yeah, closed accounts is awesome. What closed accounts does is two things. One, it gives you a tool if you are proactively tagging the runner to punish them for floating tags. That's native to NBN. It fits with their theme of we're controlling the information, we're controlling, digital stuff. Like banking is not directly related to the news, but I'm going to say it still very much fits with their theme.
Yeah, I will say it's a little interesting that future CNN has the ability to just like delete all your cyber money. But I mean, I don't know. Is that really that crazy or that far off? I guess not.
No, probably not really. They just call their friends over at Visa. So, and this was an amazing punishment card for runners who would float tags. That jerk in your local play group who would just play account siphons and would float the tags and didn't care and wasn't afraid of scorched earth, he still didn't like having his accounts closed.
That is true.
He might suck 30 credits out of your bloodstream, but then you close his accounts and now you're both poor.
That is true, and I would say there's probably there's nothing that really felt more vindicating than just hitting somebody that like recurred like 20 account siphons at you, and then you play closed accounts.
It's just the ultimate spite move. It's like, yep, now we're all broke. Is this what you wanted?
Now none of us have money. Yeah, I think closed accounts is great. Definitely agree with and echo all the sentiments that you've kind of had thus far. And I think that this filled what I think was a really important role that I also feel unfortunately never got really effectively explored as the game went on, which is having an effective way to use tags that's not just making the runner dead.
Yeah, but the problem with that wound up being because they did try with what was the card that reduced memory?
Bad times.
Bad times. Yep. That if you can be doing other things with tags, you could just be murdering the runner, and if they're dead, you win. So it's usually just better to kill them if you can.
Right. And I think kind of what I more mean is that it's unfortunate that the game kind of, moved in a direction where, just killing them always was the better and easier and more effective thing to be able to do. Than, kind of, and I don't know, maybe it never really could have been a thing. Maybe there never could be a world where, closed accounts, scorched earth, and bad times are all worth running. Maybe it just can't. It can't be.
I think the closest we came was when Scorched Earth was replaced by Boom, effectively, where closed accounts, you can slap them with that if they've only got one tag. Boom requires two. So there's kind of a reason in that regard. So like quantity of tags maybe had some more play they could have explored there.
Yeah, because as tag floating just became a very very viable and very popular strategy, I do think that effects that required more tags or got worse as you had more tags probably could have been explored a little bit more. Because scorched earth, I think at one tag, might be a little too strong, but something like boom at 2 or something where you need more tags, might be more reasonable. But
yeah,
it's hard to say. But point is, I like closed accounts for being what it is, and that's being a very a very real, very devastating consequence to getting tagged that's not just dying.
Right. Yep.
And it was a card that you did have to honor too, because a lot of
Yeah.
people would, they would pack a Plascrete, they would be all gung ho, kind of like you said, keeping the court poor so that they can't, muster up the money to play a Scorched. But all that armor and all that cockiness, can't save you from a closed accounts.
Yeah. The fact that it has there's so few things that the runner can do about it, and punishes greed. I liked all of that about it. And this is as a player who floated a lot of tags.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that I didn't end up seeing this card more as we really got into eras where, runners, corporations too, but, runners were really just absurdly, obscenely rich.
True.
And especially being at only one to play, one influence. I mean, all you got to do is tag them. As we talked about before, breaking news, closed accounts, classic combo that you really don't see coming a lot of the time.
Yeah, and super punishing, obviously. The flaw in closed accounts, I would note, is just because it was oftentimes felt like a silver bullet card, something that fast advanced decks would include one of just in case they run up against a Siphon Recursion deck, something like that, and then they just have a way to speed bump the runner. That's not a bad thing necessarily, because it also works great for decks that are proactively tagging. I just think it was an unfortunate symptom of the meta in that it became kind of a silver bullet card.
Yeah. I think closed accounts is, totally worth a look at any sort of deck that wants to tag the runner in any capacity, though.
Yes.
Even if you're just going totally gung ho, mega boner for burning their city block down, you still gotta. There's still a good chance that you may just sneak a one-off closed accounts in there, just in case your best laid plans, don't work out the way you wanted.
Yep. True.
Flavor? Yeah, flavor, because I wouldn't change anything about this card, and I think we talked about its place in the meta.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no flavor text, but it's marriage of effect to flavor. You close their accounts if you have found the runner, if you know where they live, if you can see them at home in their jammies and have their IP address, you just close their accounts. They're out of money.
You successfully got them to install the Bonsai Buddy on their toolbox, and now all their money is gone.
Exactly. I love also that it's just one credit for the corp to do this. It's so trivial for them to shut your accounts down if they know where you are.
That is true. That is fair. Just the one. But yeah, no, I think the flavor is good. I think the art's cool too. I do like the art, which is kind of weird. Like if you notice, it's like he's looking at like a sort of bank terminal, but the bank terminal is like in a void, which almost, in my opinion, right? Like, like you're the runner, right? And you check your account and you see that, and then you're just like spiraling, into this spiral of despair. Like, honestly, I think it's pretty damn good art.
Yeah, I agree. I like it.
So, what are we rating closed accounts?
I'm gonna give it a 4. I was borderline giving it 5, but I think I'm gonna give it 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 too, which is a little weird, just because, again, this is a card I forgot about, until I just saw it just now. But I think this is a damn cool card, and I think it's a little unfortunate that it didn't see more play than it did.
I like it as well as breaking news. That's why I think I give it 4.
Yeah, that is totally fair. All right, I think we can get one more in here.
We can try.
Well, as Yadlo from Space Trek said, "Do or do not. There isn't any tries."
Thank you for that. Next up, we have Psychographics. Psychographics is an NBN operation with a cost of X. Oh boy. has no subtypes. X is equal to or less than the number of tags the runner has. Place X advancement tokens on a card that can be advanced, and it is 3 influence. Okay, kicking. This here is clearly a fast advance card. So why didn't it go in fast advance decks?
Because in order for it to do the fast advancey things, you have to tag the runner. And usually if you're doing a fast advance deck, you are not also packing the tools to stick the runner with tags.
Right. Like we just talked about breaking news, obviously, which tags the runner in his fast advance, but those tags do not stay. They are not permanent.
Yep. And then additionally, I guess, kind of really, I gave you the wrong answer. The right answer to your question is that Astro-script pilot program Sand and Biotic Labor exists, so who gives a shit about this?
You're not wrong. This requires a lot more setup, it requires a lot more money, and it requires a lot more cooperation from the runner.
Yeah, this is a more balanced fast advance card.
No wonder it didn't take off.
Though, and I know I may be jumping the gun here as far as, like meta discussion and so on and so forth. Psycho Beal, kick-ass combo.
It's a very cool, interesting combo. I very rarely saw it actually land successfully.
I mean, I think that it's like a pretty funny deck to build like a Tag Storm deck that really kind of postures itself like it's a kill deck, like to kind of drown the runner in tags, and then just like score out a Beal.
Sure. For the benefit of readers out there who are or listeners, Project Beal, of course, increases its point value by 1 for every 2 advancement tokens on it. So Beal can be worth as many points as you want, so anywhere from 2 to 7. Usually this combo would be with something like mid-season replacements.
Yes. And so really, I mean, kind of also roping in the card that we just talked about. If you could land a tag on them, say via a breaking news or something, you can kind of hit them with the 3-punch combo of closed accounts, mid-season replacements, and then you have a psychographic online. Once you can get a Beal on the table.
Sure, but that does require a fair amount of setup. You have to land the tag on them in the first place, and then mid-season requires them to have stolen an agenda during their last turn. So they have to play into your hands a bit in order for this to work.
Right, like I said, a more balanced fast advance type of deck.
Certainly, agreed.
But yeah, the problem is that there are too many cooks in the kitchen of fast advance, and psychographics kind of sucks. He's burning a lot of stuff, and he's really not very good at cooking.
Yeah, psychographics was the third string cousin character, not the quirky stuffed cat that everyone loved.
Yeah, it's got a strong effect. It really does. And honestly, I would prefer a world, where this was, kind of the more looked at, kind of fast advance or
sure,
super
this
advanced
steers
combo.
more into NBN's thematics, where they know where you are, and then because they control the information, they control you type thing, rather than Astro-script, which is just playing solitaire.
Yes. So, yeah. In case anybody didn't glean this from our conversation that we've been having, psychographics didn't really see very much play.
No.
I don't know that I ever saw anybody playing this card that I personally played against, like in a tournament setting or otherwise. I might have played against a meme deck that one of our Discord brethren was playing at some point, but
sure. I mean, I've played this card a number of times at casual game nights, things like that, but I never took it to a tournament.
Yeah, this is what you make a deck around this and plop it on the table just to have some silly, goofy fun in a game of Netrunner.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy some silly, goofy Netrunner.
Yeah, silly, goofy Netrunner might be some of the best Netrunner.
True.
And I think that psychographics is I think psychographics is great for that. It's unfortunate that it got outshined by other stuff, but I think that psychographics, it deserves to exist.
Agreed. I think this is a good card that I am very glad was printed.
Yes. And I'm very glad that, if I want to, right, hey, I'm going to go make a funky psychographics deck. You know what? That would be fun. Netrunner would be a worse game if I wasn't able to make that statement.
Yes, agreed.
There anything else to be said about it other than, moving on to flavor and such?
I don't think so. I think that basically covers it.
All right, well, first thing I'm going to say is I always initially look at this card and I see a bean, like an evil bean sitting at a chair. I know that that's the inside of the chair, but it looks like an evil bean holding a glass of wine that's like turning around slowly in a chair.
A real human being?
Yes, and a real hero.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't see that, or I didn't, but now I do, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, so just so you know, from now going forward, psychographic, the flavor is that an evil being is sipping some wine and slowly turning around in his chair to do evil things to score more. This is another weird one with the flavor and the function, right? Like,
I think it's better than, say, Anonymous Tip or Astroscript is. The idea of, all right, you've tagged the runner 40 times, so you have much more information, and so you can do all of these algorithmic things with that. Makes some certain amount of sense to me.
Sure. I guess I'm just having a little bit of trouble seeing where that helps me, like push through my private security force or whatever. Or put my logo on the moon.
There might be something to that, but don't ask too many questions, peasant.
Yeah, it does have flavor text, though. I guess I should read it shit. So, the evil being says, access to the largest consumer database in the galaxy has its advantages.
Exactly. If you know where the consumers are, you can send your security team after them.
Yep, and the one of the advantages is that I can really fast track my virtual reality headset thing and immediately rule the world.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Me too. What are we rating psychographics?
I am going to give it a 3, which feels low, but I definitely don't like it as much as closed accounts and breaking news.
Yeah, I think it's good 3 territory. 4 is definitely way too high, and 1 and 2 is definitely way too mean to a card that's just trying to have a little fun.
This was a card.
Yep. One thing that can be said about psychographics is that it was one of the Netrunner cards of all time.
Absolutely.
And you can never take that away from my bean boy here. All right. Well, any closing statements, parting words, maybe a haiku that you want to say to wrap us up here?
The runner is tagged.
All right. Thanks.
I can't think